Elevate versus the Papis is going to be our next matchup. Good afternoon. I'm Tom Battinger, joined by Orion Agro-Bailey. And Elevate and the Papis, we spoke a little bit about it on the desk earlier. Both of these teams really have a lot of proof.
On the up and up. Both of these squads starting to look a little bit better. Elevate has that potential and has for a little bit longer than the Papis, but the Papis look like a whole new team during this fall split. The new mid laner, MrNazer, he's been playing really well. Excited to see how he matches up against DeathPanter in mid for Elevate.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting as well. Both teams featuring new players. We'll see how their picks and bans go as we get into game number one. You're going to see the AMC question mark?
Very well could. I mean, Elevate could pull it out. DeathPanter loves to play those hunters in mid, but it's usually more like who ye, so we'll have to wait and see. I don't know. Jermain seems more like a ROM type of guy than AMC, but you never know.
You know, my thing with Jermain is that he just wants to be aggressive. AMC, absolutely an aggressive hunter.
Sure.
Once he sort of like smells blood in the water, he hits you with that stinger and then the basic attacks and just burst damage.
It's true.
I can see it.
And Jermain probably has the opportunity to play aggressive up against Warchi in this lane, who usually doesn't have a lot of support on that left-hand side of the map. Usually, Dracomarino's around the right side, even in the mid lane. Warchi kind of left on an island a lot of times, so this could be a matchup where Jermain gets that opportunity to play aggressive.
That's a big point. You can see here AMC actually going to be the one banned out for the Papis.
Man. Raijin AMC. Those are the bans.
What a world.
Well, here we are.
2017. But big point that you just brought up about Warchi is that the Papis generally do very well by succeeding in the jungle and their support player, right? And then sort of lifts the squad up. Warchi hangs out by himself and then just sort of plays Jing, gets farmed, and then crits people late game. That seems to be what the Papis want to do. Now, Elevate, as you mentioned, Jermain, he's going to bring the fight to Warchi. Is that going to change what the Papis do here?
Very well could, but Papis spend so much time trying to make sure Creed's okay in that solo lane, and No Numbers could have a matchup where he wants to play aggressive this time. So Papis about to have to make a choice. Do they just put the jungler Dheylo on the right-hand side of the map and then keep Dracomarino on the left side, or do they give one of those two players between Warchi and Creed that one-on-one matchup and allow Elevate the opportunity to try and exploit it?
Well, Jermain will be playing the Ram, most likely, as a Thoth locked in, sort of solidifies those two characters in the left and the mid spots, respectively. Over for the Papis, we can see Erlang Shen, still not sure if he's jungle or solo, but the Soul likely to be in the middle lane, but still a little bit of flex.
Likely to be in the mid. I like Elevate taking Thoth right away to take it away from MrNazer. That's been the god that he looks the most comfortable on, he looks the most consistent on, and it's a solid pick. You're not giving up too much by picking it this early in the draft, so you take it away from MrNazer and provide yourself with a solid meta pick. Even though you're not used to seeing Thoth necessarily picked that early, it ends up working out.
But Jing will be the hunter of choice for Warchi, so it solidifies the fact that Soul will be in the mid lane. No questions asked about that. Osiris, I say solo. We have seen him in the jungle occasionally. It only works with a broader, bigger strategy.
Yes.
And I think here Osiris is probably going to go in his natural position.
No Numbers likes these pressure warrior solo laners. He wants that one-on-one potential. Osiris is the way to go. I like this selection for Elevate. Not as, widely picked as he used to be, not as one-size-fits-all as it used to be, but in this sort of matchup where No Numbers is saying, I think I can solo this guy in the solo lane, especially against Erlang Shen, who's probably against, can shut down that healing off the Erlang Shen ultimate with the Osiris ult. There's a really good one-on-one matchup for No Numbers, and I expect to see Elevate try and let him on his own so that he can get a lead against Creed.
Hunbats is really the only character in the ban slots coming out from the Papis that I think a lot of people go, of course. And I think that does two things for me. One, it's exciting to watch Elevate. And two, it shows me that the Papis have really done their homework. I mean, you got to get used to the Nox support coming out of Dardez over there. The AMC and the Raijin, they're kind of like new meta picks, but you also have to understand that Elevate are willing to play those new meta picks. That's the style of team they are. It seems to me like the Papis, sort of like chapter one of the Papis was, all right, let's just get good enough to actually contend. Now that we're contending, let's take it the next step and look for the metagame.
Exactly. It is Bellona, so maybe that is going to be Osiris in the jungle for Cherryo. I think that was kind of a flex pick at that point whenever they locked in that Osiris, and after the Hunbats ban, which and the Nemesis pick, those are the two. Yeah. I think the Nemesis might have been what Cherryo was looking for. A little surprised to not see Naja. I think Naja would have been a really strong pick here with the Thoth setup, and it's Cherryo's most comfortable assassin right there with the Hunbats. I think I would have preferred to see that, but now you have that early pressure and plenty of late game on the side of Elevate as well. Osiris, Bellona going to pressure the right side of the map early. Papis can't really afford to fight them. Sure. And then you've got Thoth and Ram in the late game that can really carry with just about anybody.
I'm kind of hoping this is going to be a Bellona in the jungle. I think that this is, one, it would be a nice pick for Cherryo, and two, 4 players that really want to use their basic attacks going to get scourged up. That's a really big deal. Definitely part of the reason why I think Elevate sort of leaned into that Bellona. We'll see where it winds up as we get a game here. The Papis, this is proving ground for the Papis here, in my opinion. I think Elevate are kind of expected to win, and they have to prove themselves in the sense that they're going to wind up with that win. Where the Papis, this is them saying, like, are we the real deal or not? Ryan, you're correct. It's going to be Cherryo on that Osiris.
Just kind of surprised that Elevate commits to the double warrior with the warrior in the jungle last pick after Dheylo locks in the Nemesis.
Yeah.
I think that I would have preferred to see the assassin, but this is kind of the case where Dheylo has so many targets that he wants the Nemesis ult, and you only get one. And then it goes on cooldown, so you want to hit no numbers with it. Cherryo. And then Dardez as well on the immobile Sylvanus. That's a character that's great to eat that Nemesis ult. On the side of the Papis, at least, you're saying that's great. So I think that Elevate just kind of says, if we throw enough valuable targets at Dheylo, he can only hit one of us, and that means that at least 2 are staying up and staying fighting.
So if you're going to counterpick yourself to the nth degree.
Exactly. If you're going to pick jumps into a Willix, pick 5, because she can only pull 1 at a time, so you have a lot of options.
Right side, already some action. Cherryo, no numbers. Both going to heal it up, though, thanks to Cleave Death's Toll situation, so no big deal for the guys on Elevate. Meanwhile, the Papis get their invade on, looking directly for the speed buff after the classic we outpush you in the mid.
That's because Dardez actually went to the left side of the map and started with Ram. I think that Elevate was a little bit afraid of an invade onto Jermain from Dracomarino and or Warchi, knowing that he might be alone. So instead of giving that pressure to the mid lane DeathPanter, who is going to get outpushed, instead Dardez goes to the left-hand side, and we're seeing again this strategy where Terra is left alone on the left, and she clears her own buffs, sort of, at least the minis, and delays her own wave, where the Hunter is in mid, and that's why Papis got so much extra pressure, was because Warchi was there in mid.
Well, Elevate now, looking for an invade of their own. The Papis trying to clean up a blue buff, and looks like Elevate will successfully snatch that one away. No numbers with their own blue. I don't know, that one goes the way of Creed. Elevate were able to pick up their own blue buff, watch them get invaded on the speed, sort of walked away. That's why you see both Dheylo and MrNazer with the speed buff.
Plenty of mobility between the two, and that means Warchi gets a red buff without much contention. So Papis with the advantage, at least in the buff totals so far. Dardez has the purple, whereas Dracomarino looks like he's going to get his stolen away, but purple, the least impactful buff in the early stages.
Yeah, especially the early stages. Glad you mentioned that. Dardez gets rooted out and then stunned. Warchi, aggressive dash, the pull onto the support. And now Warchi just piling in those basics, but a nice positioning coming out from Jermain, looking to prevent any of that nonsense.
Warchi dashing in there actually saves Dracomarino's life. If Warchi doesn't go aggressive, then Draco gets pulled back in because of Dardez's nice play. Draco probably dies for first blood, but because Warchi has the threat of killing Dardez just as quickly as Jermain can kill Dracomarino, it makes Elevate back up and allows Draco to reposition a little bit better. Smart play by Warchi.
That's going to keep his support alive. Creed, no numbers. Raw matchup. Who do you think wins?
I think I'll give it to the Erlang Shen. Erlang Shen just has such good trade potential in lane. Bellona does as well, but Erlang, while doesn't clear quite as well with the abilities, it's a matter of how Creed wants to play it. Does he want to use 72 transformations to try and clear the wave and then out-trade Bellona afterwards? Or does he want to use it to try and interrupt the bludgeon and then out-clear with the pin? It's a matter of what no numbers is going to level. It's a little bit of a back and forth. This one is basically even in my mind. It's just a matter of what no numbers is going to level, what Creed is going to level, and how they're going to play the matchup.
Right now you can see that third ability being leveled by Creed, and no numbers opting instead for the hammer. So we'll have to keep an eye on that matchup. That one's all about pilot to me. And it's completely about, like you said, the intricacies there. No numbers in Creed. How are they going to interact with each other more so than what's on paper? I like this type of solo lane matchup for sure.
That one for Erlang Shen allows him to trade so efficiently, getting that extra auto attack damage off. But Scourge interrupts a lot of that. So will no numbers be a little early before Creed pops the one? Will Creed use it, not anticipating the Scourge? It really is just a pure matchup, pure player base in my mind. It's a complete coin flip.
That's what's so much fun about that solo lane when you get that sort of matchup. Elevate looking for their own speed. Going to get invaded by the Papis, or at least the Papis will try. This looks like trouble. Dheylo not going to get stunned. No numbers off the mark just a little bit. Nazer in the middle of everything. Nice knock-up. Cherryo jumps away using the ultimate. The knock-up coming out from the animals. A very big play to shove Elevate out of the conversation And the Papis take over, screaming loud as they pick up the speed.
Creed does it all there for the Papis. That double taunt, so much control on that front side, and no one wants to look at him because he's still a warrior in the early game. Not a lot of damage in burst from Elevate. It's a lot of chase down, the slows from Bellona and Osiris, the constant tick downs, and that works great against mid lane mages and hunters, but not quite as well against early game warriors like Erlang, Shen. Really well played by the Papis to kind of split Elevate up and then group them up for the taunt right as MrNazer drops the ultimate. They don't get a kill in that scenario because they don't have the damage quite yet against two warriors. But exactly, they just take the buff anyways. That's all they really came for.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, sure, I'll always take a first blood, right? Extra bounty, but right now the Papis have done, this is how a lot of the really high-end teams do it, where you just sort of watch these early games and then all of a sudden you look up and you're like, oh, it's 6 minutes and they're up 1,000 gold? How'd they do that? And the answer is, well, they got a couple of buffs here, they got an extra lane here, and this, that, or third. The Papis are straight up 1,000 gold above Elevate for no reason.
Just superior map pressure. Yeah. Oracles, glowing blue for the Papis. Invade on the right-hand side. Speed goes to the Papis. Even the blue buff went their way as well, so they get 2 buffs for the price of just pushing everyone out from Elevate out. It's actually worth more than that first blood to get both buffs in that scenario for the Papis. They've controlled the map entirely. Only the left side has been somewhat even for Elevate, but even that, the Oracles have gone the Papis' way. So Elevate needs to try and get some pressure either in mid or on the left, because on the right-hand side, it's not looking good already, and that's really bad because you draft 2 warriors to get pressure on the right-hand side. That's the whole point of drafting double warrior, and it's only 6 minutes in, and Elevate hasn't even gotten a speed buff yet.
Jermain looks undeterred, still willing to take every fight that Warchi has been trying to cause. Oh, the cripple not on the mark. Warchi able to dodge out.
This is what you expect from Jermain, man. He loves to play aggressive. He loves to play this Rom, one of the only guys who still willing to top pick it.
I like that out of Jermain. That's the style, right? He's like, okay, you hit me. Hey, look, I'll give you some extra damage because I know I can handle you, no problem. Earlier we were watching them tussle. Jermain with a couple more basics than Warchi. Certainly another matchup we'll have to keep our eyes on. The individual matchups in this game, a lot of fun.
Well, Jermain wants to take this fight because he's finished his Ninja Tabi, whereas Warchi has not. He's still sitting on boots too, so that's going to be a favorable trade for Jermain, even if he's hitting less autos because his autos hit harder.
All right, side, trouble over there. Terra's going to pop an ult, and DeathPanter chased out by Dheylo's. But still, just not enough, and that's exactly the Papis again. That's all they want. They're showing so much restraint, a lot of good discipline here, Ryan.
But that was 3 ultimates just for Fire Elemental, so now the speed buff invade might be a little bit harder as No Number's taking a lot of damage, taunted in on the right-hand side. He's going to have to Eagles Rally away.
Nice jump, and that'll make him safe under the tier 2 tower. The Papis smell blood, and the Papis get blood. Creed with the first kill of the game. Cherryo and No Numbers have to go find safety. And Dardez can only watch as perfect timing for the Papis. Look, they planned that. That was wonderful.
Creed earns himself a speed buff for getting that first blood, though I don't know if Dheylo probably felt the same. Bad pathing there from Elevate. They kind of realized that Papis used 3 ultimates here, so maybe we can go aggressive as a nice juke from MrNazer, but still here between 2 with Dracomarino here. Cherryo's falling pretty low. They want to take this 2v2.
Oh my goodness, Cherryo could fall to the hand of a support player. Instead he wiggles out of there. Up in the sky goes Ram. Jermain looking to finish him off, and he does. MrNazer down for the count. Elevate puts one on the board thanks to Jermain's quick ult. Another nice play from the Papis there again.
MrNazer does a good job of just baiting Cherryo into a bad spot in that 2v2. It looks like a 2v1 in favor of Elevate, but with Dracomarino coming quickly to the aid of his mid laner, Oracles get split on that left-hand side. Elevate just didn't respect how much damage the Papis are going to be doing, even without ultimates at this stage of the game. And again, Creed coming up big. He looks so comfortable on this Erlang Shen, and we were talking about what Elevate needs to do in terms of continuing to become a better team. Consistency is one thing I said for both them and Valent Squadron, who looked great earlier on today. Creed is a guy who needs to be more consistent in his play, and looks like it today.
Yeah, Creed actually, you know, when the Papis came into town, Warchi, perhaps the most celebrated player, but Dheylo and Dracomarino have always sort of looked good for this team. Creed, on the other hand, a little bit of a different story in my eyes, but as of late, specifically this last fall, these last couple of weeks of the fall split, Creed, I think, has been the most improved player on the Papis. Watching him go from where he started to where he is now, that is proof that consistent play in a competitive setting will just elevate you.
I mean, look at the best solo laner in the world right now, Variety, who at one point looked like the worst SPL solo laner. Yeah. Not everyone is cut out for it. Just because you come in and don't look good doesn't mean you'll eventually look good. But certain players have that mentality, have that willingness to learn. And it seems to me that Creed does, because I absolutely agree with you. His improvement rate has been very impressive. Still needs to work on expanding the God pool. Erlang, Shen, one of the ones that he always looks a little bit better on. But this has been an exceptional performance thus far, even though we're only 10 minutes in.
And they're 2,000 gold up, maybe shy 100. I mean, that's out of control right now for the Papis, a team that a lot of people, you sort of look at Europe and you go, well, we know who's going to be top 4. And we know who's going to be bottom 2. And I think that those numbers have really changed in players' minds in 2.5 weeks. Like, this small amount of time that we've watched players play in the fall split, I think have really rattled people as far as what to expect from Europe.
That's always been what's expected from Europe, is the top end is going to be the best, and then the bottom end is going to be worse than the bottom end of NA.
Sure.
The bottom's going to be the worst, the top's going to be the best. I don't know if you could say that anymore, man. The Papis look really, really good. Ooh. Burrito still has their struggles, though.
Terra ultimate popped as Cherryo goes all in onto Dheylo, but it looked like the opportunity was there. Dracomarino the target for DeathPanter, but he's a support. Not that big of a deal. Dheylo does get poked out by the mid laner. Here comes No Numbers. Knock him into stun. Nice play in the hammer. Makes it happen. DeathPanter with the last hit onto Dracomarino. MrNazer in that immunity. Can't get hit by Jermain. But Elevate do tie up the kills 2-2.
And this is the perfect time for them to win that fight, because those right side buffs just respawn. So Cherryo gets his first speed of the game. No Numbers gets to claim his own blue for the first time this game. And so Elevate get a little bit back with that kill in mid and almost turned into 2. MrNazer baited himself very nicely initially in that mid lane fight a little bit ago. That time, now that Elevate has a little bit more damage, needs to be a little bit more careful. He was very far forward. Dardez hit a big ultimate, another pull from him. His Sylvanus has been looking excellent thus far.
I said that the Papis kind of, Elevate targeted the support Dracomarino. His build, not the tankiest. He went those cooldown reduction boots and the Jade Crown. I like this because he was ahead and he noticed it, and this is a powerful build, but you are going to be a little bit less tanky in the early stages. Elevate noticed that, and I think that's why they targeted him.
Less tanky to DeathPanter in particular.
Yes.
Cherryo's still going to do plenty of damage to him, and as will No Numbers, that Jade Emperor's Crown going to help him to mitigate that against himself and that of MrNazer. That's the big one, is helping out your mid laner not get chased down quite as easily by this Osiris jungle.
Cold Fury pulled by the Papis, and Elevate figure it out, half HP to the objective, and so they walk away, but Dheylo doesn't walk away, takes one down. Dardez with the dot damage trades out, but Warchi over the top puts number 4 on the board. Elevate answer just in kind. As we watch Dardez and Jermain both fall down, so do Dheylo and MrNazer. Fight seems to be over as Terra pops the ultimate. Dracomarino is yelling, "Walk away, please."
Good ultimate there by DeathPanter. Saves that engagement for Elevate, because Dardez was caught a little bit too far forward on that immobile Sylvanus, like a lot of teams like to do. It was just Nemesis ult into a perfect taunt from Creed, which actually pulled Dardez back into MrNazer's ultimate, which was initially off the mark. But DeathPanter identifies that no one's looking at him. He's on a sentry ward on that top left side, so he fires off that final judgment. That allows the follow-up kill for Dardez, who actually got it with the dot damage as he fell. Cherryo does a nice job of cleaning up someone on the backside as well, but good identification by DeathPanter that Dardez is going to fall in this scenario, but I can at least try and help him get a return kill.
DeathPanter has looked like a solid addition to Elevate. I really liked what he's brought here. I questioned the original decision. I think I'll always play the what if in my own brain, but DeathPanter has, I think, proven himself. That's the question when I see a roster change. I want to see 2 to 4 games of you doing it. And DeathPanter, he's doing it. So hats off to Elevate for their roster move.
And Elevate ends up 2-0ing energy with DeathPanter, so you can't really blame him.
Exactly.
You can't really knock him for making that change. He's looked really good, and he spent a lot of time near that bottom end, had a lot of struggles on a Burrito roster that struggled as a whole, but he individually had a lot of moments where he needed to improve, and looks to have done that fairly quickly on a veteran roster with Elevate.
Draco just going in by himself, just looking to see if there's something there. You see that a lot out of Dracomarino, where he'll put himself in a precarious situation looking to isolate somebody, and if it happens, the Papis collapse and get the kill very easily. And if it doesn't happen, Draco always seems to get out of trouble.
it kind of reminds me of Raffer in the way that he looks like he's out of position at times, but is just looking for things to go his way and has enough skill in order to get himself out of those situations that he can put himself into.
And you hit it. You said the skill, and that's Draco has been the guy for me on the Papis. Draco and Dheylo I always mention as a unit, but Draco consistently performing, consistently impressing a lot of people, not just myself, and I think that's been what has allowed the Papis to get to this point of improvement.
Terra ultimate use as MrNazer was in a bit of trouble, but not enough to warrant a Terra's blessing, so Draco a little bit early on that trigger, so MrNazer, just being a little bit too far forward, ends up baiting out a very important cooldown for his squad. Now the Papis don't have that chase down ability or the disengage to get away from Elevate should they need it.
No numbers snatched away at least a little guy. I can't sell the little red ghost. It's kind of fun to watch. No numbers. Another player that I really like to see improve. I liked him on the Sobek. He's always a Sobek to me. But no numbers. Console player once upon a time, right?
Really?
Am I off?
You might be correct. I never got a chance to play against any of the European teams on the SCL.
Why is that? Couldn't get to land?
Oh, I got to land, but we just got knocked out pretty early.
I never like to do that. I'm sorry.
Sure you don't. It's because I said something mean about you on Reddit today, and that's the revenge. I understand.
He's not kidding, folks. That's exactly where this trade came out. Warchi again pulling the Gold Fury here, though. Has the support of 3 of his teammates. Elevate right around the corner, well aware this one's happening. Ultimate onto Cherryo as he jumps forward. There's the ultimate from Warchi over the top, looking more for safety than anything else. The sprint is popped, and Elevate on the retreat. Cherryo barely gets out of there. MrNazer half HP. Meanwhile, DeathPanter being chased up by Creed on the right-hand side. Jermain looking to cause some trouble on the left, but it's Nazer's Aegis outlasting. No numbers doesn't care. Takes him down with the Scourge.
DeathPanter completely zoned out of that fight, but he also took Creed out of that fight by just running towards the mid lane, and no one was left to help peel for MrNazer. Elevate get one. Cherryo did have to back, and he's actually heading to the right-hand side while the rest of his team is trying to pull this Gold Fury.
I don't know how DeathPanter got out of there. Fires the ultimate through the wall here. And Creed with the Thorn is going to get hit up by no numbers. Gold Fury still just being wrestled over. Warchi takes down Dardez. It's a 4 for 4 so far.
Now Terra's blessing used by the Papis, but Elevate say, all right, we get it. We'll back up for the moment. Papis decided to pull the Gold Fury.
Over and over again. Warchi looking for it. Dracomarino getting himself in trouble here. Doesn't have a dash available. There it is. The whole... See you later, guys. Just see you later, guys. Both of them are dead.
Finds Dracomarino. Dheylo's low. Good retribution shield, but not good enough. As the Papis just seem to be on a different page there. Warchi wants to pull gold, where Draco and Dheylo push up to try and stop that red buff secure from Elevate. Creed had backed in the midst of that fight, never really came back to it, and now it's Elevate's turn trying to get the objective.
Yeah, I think they're going to be able to grab the... Ooh, no. Creed shows up in the nick of time, gets stunned out, and might die for it. But at least he stopped the Gold Fury attempt. I think that's the right play for Creed to make right there. This time, Warchi gets double jumped on, and the dash forward stunned it out. The ultimate will save the life of Jing Wei. But one by one, the Papis are walking in, and not all of them are escaping.
This is where these teams with a lack of experience start to show that lack of experience. Just one by one, Papis go in. That's the exact terminology for it, because it's Draco and Dheylo. First is Draco, then Dheylo, and then they fall in that exact order. And then Warchi shows up, and to help him comes Creed, and Creed ends up dying. Warchi escapes, but because MrNazer steps up to try and help, he ends up falling. Elevate just do a good job of target selection in that scenario, and honestly, it's not that hard to call the right targets because they're going in one. One. Oh, this guy's out of position. Hey, look at this guy. Now that we killed the other one, the Papis had gotten themselves a really good lead in this game, and this is what you see from these teams that are starting to rise up the ranks. The early game where they play it a lot, they're solid. They understand what they want to do, but in those precarious situations in the mid to late game where they don't get as much practice, they tend to struggle.
I'm seeing this. We just watched this episode on the left side of the map. Warchi just continuing to pull the objective, gets himself in trouble. Aegis forced out. No numbers going to be dodging in there, but there's the ultimate on top of Jermain. Double dash coming out from Dheylo, looking for the damage on the Hunter. Not going to find it. All the while, DeathPanter is shooting down the middle.
Their big ultimate with the final judgment. Creed's 1 HP, but he's going to be able to get away. DeathPanter dashes forward, can't find the evade and punish. Warchi has no relics, so he was the focus. Elevate looked like they might have stepped up a little bit too far, but that's the power of this Sylvanus. So much physical protection from those wisps, especially with the Lotus Crown.
Yeah, Lotus Crown just helping out even more so. Elevate here now, centralized around the Portal Demon. Warchi being zoned out by Cherryo. Dheylo does have an angle on it behind the Osiris, who already pops the ult.
I believe Cherryo thought that he was going to get hard committed to in that scenario, but no one from the Papis really wanted to bite. They were a little too wary of how many people were around that corner. Cherryo played it pretty safe in that call.
That's one way to put it.
That's
Very
how I'm
safe.
gonna put it.
Over safe. You ever wear like 4 seatbelts at once?
No, I can't say I have.
Kind of.
I feel like that would hurt you more than help you.
Yeah, you never know. Half HP on the Portal.
DeathPanter in with Cherryo. Big ultimate from no numbers right on this fire giant, but his bludgeon gets interrupted by Creed's ultimate. Cherryo still trying to help as Nemesis ultimate goes on a no numbers.
And it's causing so much damage from the fire guy. Meanwhile, MrNazer in trouble, has to get out of there. Rama in the sky looking for him. Instead, he's going to switch to Warchi, who hurts him. Big deal, big damage. Portal Demon still can be contested. That's going to happen, but it's not going to be taken. Elevate wind up with the big guy. And now damage coming out from the mid lane onto MrNazer, forces him out of the fight.
Nice disruption by Creed to ensure that Draco's going to be able to get out of danger. Love the audible in midair by Jermain to say, yeah, MrNazer's probably a little bit too far. He has Aegis anyways, so yeah. I'm just going to force Warchi out. Nazer was out of that fight because of how low his HP bar already was. Warchi takes over half of his health from the accurate snipes from Jermain, and that's what these experienced ROM players do. They don't always look to secure kills. Barracuda loves to start fights off with that ROM ultimate.
Dracomarino can pop the ultimate as his team gets pressured on the right side and also applies pressure in the mid lane. A Hunter and a Soul can trade this tower out no problem, even if the Thoth player comes through. No big deal, no defense.
I like this rotation from Cherryo. He knows that DeathPanter is going to need assistance against this strong push comp, and might even be able to pick something up. Good poke onto MrNazer, but that well-timed Evaporate gets him out of the stun from evade and punish.
Doesn't care, jumps over, nice Aegis. MrNazer hits that in the air, or excuse me, while Cherryo's in the air. The slowdown's a big deal. What chunked him there?
Evade and punish, man. DeathPanter on the mark again. Now Draco's in some trouble. Warchi gets stunned out alongside his support by the ultimate from no numbers.
The turn.
Big taunt out of Creed, though.
The turn, the turn, the turn. The ultimate coming out from Dheylo, also keeping the enemies at bay. Elevate all wanted to look for the dive in this tower. One Nemesis ultimate, and the players are like, look, we don't want to deal with that. We will back off. Portal Demon, all of that just for like 100 gold. They don't turn that into a fire giant, which I think a lot of teams really want to do. They do turn it into a tower on the right side, but it immediately gets traded out over there in mid as well. Elevate, however, with that exchange one more time with MrNazer falling down and the 500 from the tower, the mid lane, have got themselves a nice little 3,000 gold lead here in our 22nd minute.
More importantly than the tower on the right, you get the tower in mid, and MrNazer has struggled in this game.
Yeah.
1, 5, and 3. His player damage is really solid. In fact, he's top of his team in terms of player damage, but Cherryo has done such a good job along with DeathPanter of really focusing out the enemy mid laner. There's Osiris that's supposed to dominate in the early game and continue that dominance into the mid game. Got behind in the early game, but his mid game has been exactly what you expect from him, just consistently slowing down the enemy, making their life difficult.
Yeah, it was funny watching Cherryo chase down MrNazer because we've watched Osiris chase down players before. I've done it 100,000 times. I know the speed at which the Osiris is going to kill you. And then all of a sudden, burst damage comes through. Like, where's that coming from? Cherryo's asking himself the same thing as Creed taunts him in. 2v2, not sure about that, but with Dracomarino and Nazer showing up, sure, here we go. But all that while, Elevate taking out the Gold Fury. The Papis had no clue. And Warchi falls to the hand of DeathPanter 1v1.
Warchi thought he could seal away the Gold Fury with the airstrike ultimate, just couldn't quite time it right. Dardez the one to secure it, so you know it must have been pretty low if Sylvanus, the one to make sure it goes Elevate's way. What was a rough early game for them? They kept within striking distance. That's the most important thing. The goal difference never got worse than about 2,000. Experience was pretty hefty near that 4K mark, but they always kept the gold close enough and just waited for the Papis to make a mistake. And that's what you have to do sometimes. Sometimes the early draft, as a good team, just doesn't go your way. You'd say, you know, we messed up here and there. We've opened the door and now we're behind. But you have to wait it out, be patient, and understand that you're going to have at least one opportunity to get back into the game against a team like the Papis. So you have to just take advantage whenever that opportunity comes.
There are so many phases. Like, we always talk about early game and late game, but there are three there's early game, mid game, late game, and then you can even divide those into three different sections, you know, early, etc. And the idea is that, like, at all points in the game, your composition versus the others, there's going to be a point where you can steal the lead. And Elevate knew exactly what they were doing, like you were illustrating. The Papis here, I think that letting that last Gold Fury go, that's going to be the moment that's troublesome. You can fight against a 3,000 gold lead, even against a team that is, you know, the upper card, the harder to beat team than your squadron. But once you hit 5,000-6,000, now you're looking down the barrel of a gun. The Papis have to make a move. Do they have to be aggressive about it, though?
I think I'd rather see the Papis play patient and wait for Cherryo or No Numbers to go a little bit too aggressive. Because with these double warriors, it can be a little bit tempting to just jump into the middle of 3 or 4 people. But we're getting to the point where Papis should have enough damage to try and punch through those warriors soon enough. MrNazer has the Obsidian Shard, though now he's building into a Hide of the Urchin, and still don't like that item from behind. This is probably the worst scenario for him to try and build it, because how is he going to kill these warriors who are on top of him? But you've got the Hasten Katana and Stone Cutting from Dheylo. Warchi's got the crit going. So now's the time where Nemesis Ultimate could start it off.
Nice snatch. Draco gets grabbed right through the wall from Dardez. Not a big deal. He's able to get out of there no problem. Creed, full HP, once upon a time. Now half HP as Elevate quickly pile all their ammunition right on top. Cherryo over the squad looking for some damage. Draco brought down to about 40%. And if you can tell by the tone of my voice, I don't think the Papis are too concerned right now.
Warchi dashing in, though. First one in. Jermain looking for it. Big ultimate coming out of DeathPanter. Warchi does able to get up and over with that airstrike. Dracomarino able to survive with just a sliver of health as well.
Elevate pushed the Papis out big enough to pick up the Portal Demon. The Papis, that's an objective you can give up as long as you don't lose too many people. That's the appropriate amount of try to protect I think the Papis need to exert. The problem is it's back. This is a free Fire Giant at this point, and they're just going to give it up.
And that's the problem. If you do try and just kind of have to commit to defending that Portal Demon, and then you all get low and all have to back, well, Elevate can either take Portal Demon like they do in that scenario, or just go straight for Fire Giant, which they still do in that scenario. Good ultimate by DeathPanter. That's what turns that fight. That was close, but still in Elevate's favor up until that point. It wasn't until DeathPanter hit a big ult onto multiple people that really forced the Papis back. Warchi is clearly on a different page than the rest of the Papis, by the way, because that dash in starts off that engagement really poorly for the Papis, who done a nice job of getting in. You know, Draco gets pulled, but they disengage. Creed stops that engagement going in Elevate's favor heavily.
I like this move.
But Warchi really tells Papis, we need to go, but no one else was there ready.
I think the Papis can fight into Elevate right now. 5k down plus the Fire Giant. I think they absolutely can. But by forcing this, they are going to get creative about it. They'll likely trade out their Phoenixes. They're split up 3 versus 2. The 3 is going to be able to take No Numbers. And they send Dracomarino to tank with the 2 structure destroyers. I like this plan. Will it work? As DeathPanter and everybody else show up? Not sure.
No chance they'll be able to get this Phoenix in time. And now Warchi and MrNazer and Draco need to get on the run because DeathPanter is going to be looking for him. So it decides just to clear the wave because he knows they've got plenty of time to chase down these members.
I still think that was a brilliant plan. I wish they just had a little bit more. Maybe if MrNazer didn't have a Hide of the Urchin.
Maybe, but that's not. I mean, they weren't even close to that damage. No Numbers, just a perfect character to defend in that scenario.
With
Disarm.
the Scourge.
Takes away those basic attacks. Then he's got the Eagles Rally. You're going to have a really hard time killing him, even with a late-game Hunter and a late-game Mage getting close to at least that point. It's
Still
just
love
the
the
perfect
play.
character for Elevate to defend.
Love that play. Unfortunately for the Papis, it doesn't show up in their favor. Now the ultimate onto Cherryo. This is what you were talking about. Isolate these players. Would have liked to see the chase, but everybody on the Papis know that Elevate are right here on the Tier 2 tower. And going all the way back to that Fire Giant fight, the Papis were in an okay spot. They chased out 2 or 3 ultimates and could have retreated, but then their Hunter dashes right on in, and I think that's where everything went awry. I think if the Papis look back at this tape today, Ryan, I think, you know, not necessarily, I think you're going to point to Warchi.
And Dheylo's ultimates have returned near 0 investment in the mid to late game. I mean, in that first fight by the Fire Giant, he throws it on to DeathPanter just try and disengage the Papis, where Creed was already doing that job. That one in the mid lane, I don't know if the team isn't just following up off of his call, saying, hey, we need to kill this person, I just nem-ulted them, or if he's choosing the wrong targets and the team doesn't want to go on them and have already stated that. There's a bunch of different ways that communication path can break down, but somewhere along that line there is a breakdown, and if you're going to pick a character like Nemesis, you need to have that team communication.
Well, Jermain gets last hit of the Gold Fury. Elevate take another objective. 12,000 gold in the lead here, folks. 30 minutes, 11-5. Elevate leading in all of relevant categories. And a lot of eyes on the new mid lane. A lot of what Elevate has been able to do, in my opinion, has been on the back of DeathPanter. He's playing the Thoth well, just executing from the back line, but he's tearing it up with the player damage, and it's all relevant player damage.
It's been safe damage as well. As I mentioned, Dheylo's been looking for him with that Nemesis ultimate, and he's been so separated from the rest of his squad in a good way that the rest of the Papis can't really afford to get to him because Elevate's just kind of standing in their way. It's really worked out well for DeathPanter in this one.
What's so interesting to me is watching DeathPanter on his old team, his deaths, he was one of the mid laners that died the most on his team.
Well, mid lane, let me give you a little lesson about how the plight of the mid laner. When the rest of your team is having trouble, you're going to be the focus no matter what.
Sure.
Your team can't protect you. You're going to die a lot. Mid laners never make any mistakes.
We're still talking. I mean, it was compared to, because I remember breaking it down, compared to, Alyssa on this Elevate team, which we're not comparing a top team to a bottom team, right? Elevate's still on the bottom end of things. There are something like 60, 70 deaths separating these two players. And his positioning here has been fantastic. Very curious. Very curious. Is it the fact that Dardez is just doing that much better of a job protecting him?
It's the fact that his team is doing a better job of dealing damage to the enemy to make them think twice about getting on top of him. When you're losing, it's very easy to try and peel because you're all retreating together. You're all grouped up, running for your lives because there's a big ball angry behind you trying to chase you with a bunch of gold.
But when you're winning, you just want to dive all backlines.
Not necessarily. You want to stay where you are correctly positioned, hit whoever's in front of you, don't put yourself out of position, and most importantly, never dab. That's the most important.
No, that's not something I think is the truth. But Elevate.
Casters are supposed to back each other up, Tom, and you're doing a horrible job of that right now.
You have never backed me up when I've told you to dab.
Yeah, that's true.
Because you love it. That's your favorite phrase.
It's really not.
Right side Phoenix has respawned. Now, Elevate here with the Fire Giant. What do you expect Cherryo to do in this scenario as a jungle warrior Osiris with a leap? What do you expect him to attack?
Probably whoever's in front of him or out of position.
I expect him to dive the backline. DeathPanter looking to line things up. Oh, the pull, the dash. Okay, Dheylo walks away.
I'm never gonna say dab.
We'll get it one day. And this left side, right side Phoenix, not gonna. Oh, I thought he was looking for the long range shot. Right, Phoenix does die. What was that? You say something, Agar?
No, I didn't. No. Right side Phoenix does die.
Yeah, it does die.
Now Elevate into the mid lane. Cherryo, the first one in, and the wall's up by Dracomarino. Dardez daring him to crush him, and Draco takes it, but that means that cooldown's down for a little bit. As Elevate really have no fear. I mean, no one's taking any damage at all.
I mean, no reason to really be afraid here. Just play it fast and loose, I think, for Elevate. They're up so much gold. I mean, at this point in the game, just go right on in. Pull out a Dardez, not going to be on the money. Couple of crits coming out. That can be a little bit scary, but I think Warchi's the only one that's really going to threaten anybody on Elevate. But the more time they spend their time dawdling around, the scarier it's going to get. Jumping in finally, nice but now the comeback fight out of the Papis doesn't matter. 2 kills on the side of Elevate, relatively good here. 3 players left in blue, and it looks like it's quickly going to be 4, 1, 0. Elevate, all take the money and run. Titan, this one's going to Elevate 16-5.
That was just about the best fight that the Papis could get in that scenario, but they're so far behind that it doesn't end up mattering. But that's exactly how the Papis composition should work. It's Nemesis ultimate into Erlang Shen taunt, into Soul ultimate that covers the entire backline. Then Warchi gets a chance to go in. Problem is, they didn't do enough damage. It looked like they might, but again, those heals from the Fire Giant buff, the heals from Sylvanus for Dardez, and there's just not quite enough damage items on the side of the Papis to punch through that protection and sustain that Elevate already had.